Thank you very much. I think as a council, we would want to place the youth at the center of the activities that we are doing. And as I was speaking to him, as we were chatting, coming in our vintage Rolls Royce, we were discussing how best, as the junior councillors, they could ignite the voter registration among the youth and the schools and everyone else. And I'm happy that he agreed and shared my viewpoint. Please, may we all be seated. Thank you very much. I want to thank you all for coming. Before we do anything else, we would like to, maybe we might have to stand again to observe a minute of silence for Mayor, His Worship, Oliver Chidau, who passed away recently. He, as you all know, he was once a mayor of the Sunshine City, and it is a loss that we felt at the City Hall, and also he was the Metropolitan Secretary for the province of Harare, and we were working with him in many areas, and would like to observe a minute of silence for him before I do the salutations. Thank you very much. Accordingly, maybe I'll take this opportunity to announce what we need to announce. I've noticed that most of our former mayors before 1980 had streets named after them. So you have Cleveland, Van Prague, and so forth. So, but after 1980, people just allowed the mayors to leave office and forgot to name anything after them. So what we are going to do, we are going to pass a resolution as council that, and we'll discuss with the families and the residents of the areas concerned. So we are going to name streets after former mayors. So all the former mayors that have been there since 1980, including the men who have just honored with a minute of silence, we are going to identify streets that are going to be named after them. I see Mayor Masunda is here, His Worship Manyenyeni is here. We will ask them to identify streets, or will assist them to identify streets that will be named after them, and a resolution shall accordingly be passed by our council in the next council meeting, so that they are not forgotten and that we remember and feel proud of our city fathers that have come before us. Accordingly, I've noticed that the city has not awarded any awards for the past 20 years. So what we are going to do in the next council, there are a number of councillors that have achieved alderman status. I see former councillor Honorable Chikombo is here. He's one of those who qualify to be alderman, among many others who qualify to be alderman. Again, before the next council meeting, those processes that require for people to be recognized as aldermen will be done, and we will approve that status in the next council meeting, so that we are able to continue with the traditions of the city. It has also come to my attention that we have not given the freedom of the city to anyone in a long time. We are going to ask representations from residents to accord that status to those who deserve the freedom of the city. So we are going to want to allow people to be proud to be members of the city of Harare and to have worked for the city of Harare. We are also going to ask other notable residents that have contributed a lot to the story of Harare. We have the George Shires of this world, the Kara Blacks, the Moses Chungas of this world, and so forth. We are actually running out of names of our schools, such that we call our schools Budiriro 1 up to Budiriro 20. We will no longer do that. We will not call our suburbs Glenview 1 up to Glenview, I don't know, because it would appear as if we have run out of names. We do have names, we have got clinics, we have people who have assisted in the medical fraternity. We shall accordingly give their names to buildings, give their names to suburbs, and give their names to schools, so that we have identity and pride in the things that we are building. Unless we are building such buildings that people are not proud to be named after this. I thought I should say that. I know that it is said in the backdrop of a funeral, but it is important for us to be able to get that out of the way. Thank you very much. So I'll then go back to the speech. Diplomats accredited to Zimbabwe, the Secretary for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Mr. Tim Guti, represented here by the Director for Local Governance, Mrs. Catherine Kampila, members of the House of Assembly and Senators here present. I take note of the presence of our SG, Secretary General Charlton Wende, and our Chair for Harare, Wellington Chikombo, who is also a member of the House of Assembly. Mayors, I've already mentioned that Mayor Masunda is here, and Mayor Manyenyeni is here. Chairpersons from sister local authorities, senior government officials here present, leaders of various churches, former mayors of the city of Harare, aldermen, councillors here present, junior councillors here present and his worship, the junior mayor of the city of Harare, Councillor Jarlani Charamba, town clerks, and the town clerks of our sisters authorities, captains of industries and commerce, esteemed stakeholders and development partners here, the city of Harare management, residents of Harare, Harare city workers representatives here present, members of the media fraternities, ladies and gentlemen. I feel deeply honored to make this maiden speech for Harare, which is my maiden speech for the city of Harare, in my capacity as the mayor of Harare. It almost never happened. As the most suspended mayor of Harare. The State of the City address has become an integral part of the mayoral calendar. It is very important for us to give people a sense of where the city is and where we are in terms of the issues that are affecting the residents. The speech is addressed back to basics for service delivery. I think that is the topic. We need to go back to the basics. We need to re-engage with the citizens at a level where we do the same things right. The Master of Ceremony, Chimama, was, KVG, thank you for coming, was asking who is bathed, who has used the bucket. And those are the key service delivery issues. And that is the whole reason why people congregate and become part of a city, to be able to deal with the basics. So instead of promising big things, instead of us promising a lot of things, we want to go back to doing the basics right. Once we do the basics right, we will be able to deliver the service that is required to do so. Our priorities under this theme can be summarized as follows: improving water supply coverage, restoration of service delivery in the waste management sector, housing delivery, ensuring more people own their homes and a valid title deeds, dealing with illegal developments around the city and bringing back order and sanity, protecting wetlands and other natural heritages that we have as a city, improving public lighting for the safety of our residents, reducing the risks which lead to poor health, and responding effectively to health emergencies, regaining the financial stability through good governance and recapitalization of service delivery operations. That's the summary of what we mean by a return to basics. And just an update, in terms of leadership, we are now back to a full complement of 46 councillors following the by-election held in March 2022. We have 38 male councillors and 8 female councillors. Of the female councillors, Councillor Eugenia Chipiwa and Councillor Media Mudarike are chairpersons of information and publicity and audit committees, respectively. We are a council that views gender equality seriously, and we do hope that with the elections around the corner, we'll have a significant improvement in the number of female councillors that are there. On the executive, the following senior posts have officials in acting capacities: Town Clerk, Director of Works, Water, Housing and Community Services, Finance, Human Capital and Chamber Secretary. And this translates to 90% of the senior positions being acted for. Dr. Chonzi is the only substantive health director who has his post, and with the Harare water director holding the post of town clerk. This is because there's a dual responsibility in terms of employment. Some of the things have to be approved by the Ministry of Local Government, and some have been taken off through suspensions and cases that they have before the courts. And this has created a lacuna and a challenge in terms of service delivery, because if 90% of your senior executives are in acting capacity, you produce a challenge. And the challenge is that you have to act on another job while someone is acting on your job. You can't fill your junior job, because if you don't get the job you were acting in, it means you no longer have a job in council. And this is an issue that we have to deal with. Firstly, on 2 scores. City councils must be allowed to employ their executives on their own. These are big organizations. The city of Harare and the councillors are quite capable of appointing and interviewing senior executives. This referral to the local government board is clearly not working. So we need to address that issue, and I hope that it will be addressed very quickly in the context of devolution. But those are the posts that we have. And as an action point, we are going to try and fill most of these posts, not 70% of these posts, in substantive capacity within the following 6 months. That is before we make the other state of the city address. Relations with government. We do have issues around how we need to deal with government. We, in the main, have cordial relations, despite what might appear in the press. And we do work a lot on many other issues, in terms of enforcement, in terms of the budget, in terms of other key issues that lead us to relate with government. But as it will appear in the picture or in the whole presentation, that we are making. We need to work on it. One of the issues I've already addressed, which is the issue of employment of senior staff. That is an issue where we need to amend the legislation to realign it so that councils are allowed to employ senior executives. We also get money from central government in relation to devolution. Now, this money, we have a budget, but as it will come out in the speech, we are having challenges in drawing down the money. And some of it, we draw it down in advance, but we don't get it as quickly as we should, and that creates a problem in terms of budgeting and the loss of value. We need to improve on that. We do have a very good relationship working with the Office of the Permanent Secretary for Local Government. We have worked in a number of areas, that is Permanent Secretary for the province, rather. The Permanent Secretary in his office, Mr. T. Mangudya, we do have a very cordial working relationship at a personal level, and we also have worked with that office in the main very well in implementing a number of projects that need to be implemented in the city. And we do hope that will then continue to happen. We have another critical stakeholder whom we desire to be meeting, which is the Minister of Finance and Development. I, as the mayor, have not met him. He has not met me, and that has created havoc in how we are handling our finances. We need a closer relationship with the Ministry of Finance, because some of the things that require us to provide services for require a very close relationship. We have budgetary issues in terms of service delivery, in terms of water chemicals, in terms of salaries, in terms of what we charge the residents, the taxation element of local councils. We are still using an archaic system of taxation that is not allowing us to provide services at the levels that we should. And we require that we be able to have a closer relationship with the Ministry of Finance than what we have. We, as a city, are superintending over 3 million people. 3 million people whom we have to provide services for, who we have to penalize, rate, and so forth. And this creates a challenge if you are unable to have a close relationship. And what is critical in that relationship is the issue of the use of devolution funds. The devolution funds are supposed to come to local councils. We have not received our share of the devolution funds up to date. The minimal use of the devolution fund that we have done is we have advanced monies on certain activities in the hope that the devolution money will then come. And this is problematic in the sense that if we do not get the money timeously, it is losing value, and we are not able to buy the equipment and recapitalize the council, especially in waste management. And that is also coupled by the lack of a clear framework on how we use the devolution funds. The legislative framework, the procedures, and when and how it's supposed to come. Everything is up in the air, and we need to be able to have that process sorted out in our relations with central government. To illustrate that, in the 22 budget, we were allocated over $2.3 billion RTGS as our RTG, as our devolution portion. To date, we've only received 73 million of those funds by June. And we are promised that we are going to get a further 91 million in July. This is a drop in the ocean. It means that the capital projects we had budgeted for, that we had allocated money for, we are not able to do them, or the prices have changed. Yet we have this figure as the budgeted figure for the year 2022. and we had allocated it as 12% of the council budget. Decentralization and delimitation. We, as a council, delimitation has come. What therefore means is that we have a complement of 46 councillors. The Constitution provides that we are going to get 30% female quota councillors. We as a council have proposed to have 55 councillors, and this is subject to the discussions with the residents. Of the 55 councillors, it therefore means about 16 or 17 will be added as the female quota, which is 30%. We believe that the city has grown. The city has more numbers than we were before the last delimitation was done. We've proposed that every ward must have an average of 14,500 voters. And those 14,500 voters, in terms of the Constitution, it would therefore mean that a ward will have maximum of 18,500 voters or a minimum of 12,500 voters to give in the 20% variance. Now what this means for the residents is that we will try to keep the wards as equal as possible so that we don't have a ward like Ward 1, which is over 70,000 voters, and it's difficult for the councillor to provide services to that. In addition to that, we are going to cluster the wards in our efforts to further devolve the management of council. We are going to cluster the wards into groups of like-minded or similar wards. And we are going to have meetings at the district offices of cluster councils so that they can determine the development priorities ward by ward. To illustrate that, it does not make much sense for us to ask the resident of Dzivarasekwa to celebrate a clinic that has been built in Mapuku. Sometimes the person in Dzivarasekwa has never been to Mapuku. So what we need is now to decentralize, to devolve, so that development and developmental projects are done at a ward cluster or at a district cluster, so that each cluster will have its own equipment, its own compactor, its own ambulance, its own road repair equipment, tractors, and so forth, their own schools, own clinics, and things that they can manage as a district cluster. And I've asked the district officers to be here in this meeting to get this state of the city address, because they are at the core face of our service delivery to the residents. And we are going to decentralize and give more authority and give more decision making at a district cluster so that developmental priorities are done at that level. We are also going to increase our fight against corruption. Corruption is in two forms. We have the corruption that people meet on a day-to-day basis as they pay their licenses, as they meet the traffic police, as they try to go into a flea market, as they try to do their day-to-day activities. We are going to introduce a smart city concept where most of these things have to be done from the center and through a computerized system. We're going to remove the human element in many of our activities. What has created the corruption has been the analog manner that we are still handling our activities as council. If you are supposed to get a traffic fine, you should get it from a computer, from a camera, from a place where you cannot then be asked to pay a bribe, or someone is interpreting your violation in a manner that allows them to have a discretion to make you pay a bribe. So that part of the corruption we are going to deal with as council. And part of dealing with it is to digitalize. We are going to digitalize many of our operations to avoid a situation where we have the human element. Then in terms of high-level corruption, corruption in terms of deals that are happening in council, that are happening at central government, that are happening in other offices that are higher up. We are going to create a whistleblower system which will allow us to receive reports and to be able to deal with high-level corruption, so that it does not happen or it does not bedevil the city again. And we are also going to engage central government in terms of how we are going into public-private partnerships, so that our partnerships are done openly and we will advertise. In that regard, I've announced that as the mayor, we are going to review all the partnerships that we have. All the partnerships that we have entered into, many of them have been repudiated. Many of them are not in the favor of council. So we are going to review each partnership one by one. Some of the partnerships we have gone on to donate land, to give title deeds to private actors, and those title deeds were given without a cent being paid to council, or without a cent being paid in terms of the agreement. They have been taking advantage of the absence of lawyers in the policy-making framework. I'm now there as a lawyer, and as the junior councillor said, I'm a very good lawyer as well. So we are going to deal with some of those partnerships. Some of them have long since been repudiated. Some of our partners have not given us the money they said they will give us. They have not done what they said they will do. But at the same time, you keep getting reports that you are still in partnership with those people. We are also going to be dealing with issues of personnel, labor issues. Labor issues are a problem for the city council. One, we are losing competent staff to other cities outside the country. If you look at our fire brigade, the moment we finish training them, they go to countries in the Middle East where they can be paid better. We have one of the best training programs for the fire engine people in Southern Africa. And a lot of them immediately, as soon as they finish, especially the young ones, they go. Nurses, I don't need to talk about it. The general staff, I was talking about management, but the skilled staff, it's a problem. And even those who want to remain, our salaries are now very low. We are paying in RTGS, and there is a clamor by the labor force that they need to be paid in US. We have a situation where other central government has been able to give $175 to its own civil servants. We are unable to do that because we are not charging in Forex, and we are not getting a grant from central government in Forex. And it is amoral and unhealthy that central government develops a solution for its own workers, but they are the very same people who are mandated with dealing with the economy. That's why earlier I said we need an interaction with the Minister of Finance. We are now hamstrung as city councils. We don't know what to do with our suppliers and also our labor force, because we do not have the flexibility to be able to pay in foreign currency. We do not have the flexibility to keep charging the residents in Forex as long as the statutory instruments are not clear. And this has a direct impact on our ability to retain staff or to keep the staff that we have motivated to do their jobs. And we need an urgent meeting as quickly as possible to look into the economic framework that we are operating under, to see how we can move as a council and how a flexibility can be given to councils. For the meantime, we are up to date with the payment of salaries. We are up to date with their allowances. We have issues around pensions which are being eroded. We have issues around the medical aid which is being eroded by the economy. But we are happy to say up to now we have not fallen behind in terms of paying salaries. But the challenge is the quantum of that salary and the meaning of that salary once one has it in his pocket. And that is where we need to be able to address. Sporting disciplines and recreation. The conventional thought has been that we need to retreat from sports, we need to retreat from soccer. Currently, sporting is taken up by 0.5% of our budget. We are going to increase that cap for sporting to at least 1% of our budget. I'll tell you why. Sporting and recreation are going to be at the center of our fight against the drug menace. I've held over 50 meetings in the wards with the councillors. The biggest item, the biggest problem we are going to face as a country is the drug pandemic or epidemic or whatever it is. We have a drug problem in the high density suburbs, we have a drug problem in the schools, we have the drug problem in the colleges. One of the ladies, or one of the old women was crying that the children are even stealing the roof while you are sleeping. You wake up tomorrow, the sheets above your head have gone. The person opens the door, he steals the door and goes. The youths are, the drug problem has become so big, and part of the solution is for us to increase sporting activities in the wards, recreational activities in the ward, and restore back the issues that can actively engage the youth. We will also need to deal and talk to central government in terms of the things that we need to invest in to avoid the youth being consumed by the drugs. And we need a comprehensive policy from the Ministry of Health, from social welfare, to all the cities, Harare included, as to how we are going to deal with the drug. We do not have rehabilitation centers. We need, as a matter of urgency, to develop rehabilitation centers. Currently, when one is got a problem, they are taken to Chikurubi and put in Chikurubi or some other prison. But you can't do that. You need to rehabilitate. You need to create a rehabilitation centers and rehabilitation homes that will make us deal with this drug problem at its core. And law enforcement, we need to be able, some of these drug dealers are persons that are known by name. Some have even got combis. It's like a movie. They are in the community, they have big houses, they have transport business, they have shops, they have everything. They are known by name, but they are untouchable. For some reason, they cannot be arrested. The only people who are being arrested are the small drug dealers. And if they are arrested, they are quickly back in the community. So we need to be able to deal with the law enforcement agencies and the communities in that regard. Strategic business units. The city has got strategic business units. One of them is Easy Park, which is working better than most, which do the parking. The other business unit is the quarry which is working to some extent, but we are having challenges. What we have done, I've spoken to the chairpersons of these institutions. We also have Sunshine Holdings, where the chairperson, Masunda, is there. We have Rufaro Marketing, which is in bigger problems. We have many other business units that we can create as a city. We have given a program and a timetable to the quarry. The quarry is the one that does the roads. It's supposed to make the tar, and it's supposed to give us the stones that we use when we are making tarred roads. It has been performing below expectation. We turned into a private limited, but that has not made it successful. I had a chat with the chairperson of that company yesterday in my office, and indicated and gave them a time frame when they will turn around the quarry, when we should be expecting material and raw materials to do our roads that have become potholed. And as a strategic business unit, they have got the asphalt plant working. They now have got the crusher machine working. But what they haven't given us is the product. And as I was assured that within the beginning of August, we will be getting material in bigger volumes than what we have been getting. Rufaro Marketing is a challenge. If people recall, Delta is renting the place where it makes opaque beer from council. That was done in 1994. Now, no one knows what rental is coming from there. Would you believe it? We had over 85 bars that we were running as Rufaro marketing. Those bars, no one knows what revenue is coming from there. It used to employ and it used to fund our recreational activities, and we used to have a beer levy, which was the sin tax at that time for those who drink beer. And we then used to produce beer, which we would sell as opaque beer. So we are going to reevaluate the operations of that company. We are going to put it back to a level where it can operate as a business unit. And we are going to make sure we are going to get the value that the City Council ought to get from that business unit. And we are looking at many other business units that are housed under Sunshine Holdings to see how we can trigger them so that we can get a dividend to the residents. The financial outlook of the city. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to give you an overview of the financial performance for the period 1 January 2022 to 30 June 2022. Total collection summary. January to June, potential was 28 billion. Revenue actually collected in that same period is 15 billion. Our collection efficiency remains less than 50% of our potential. The 28.8 billion collected as at June 2022 is inclusive of the legacy debt brought forward to 2022. We started the year with a legacy debt of 16.8 billion, which has since been eroded as it has not been helped by the hyperinflationary environment. Most of the monies that are owed to us are being eroded by inflation. We are one of the few service providers in the country that is still doing a post-paid system. We provide the service, you pay later. And this is unsustainable in this inflationary environment and in an area where people no longer want to pay. Electricity and water are our major drivers. The water treatment chemical bill hovers around 35 to 40 million per month, depending on the prevailing rate. We owe ZETDC 1.5 billion. We consume a lot of power for water treatment plants. We used to manage our power. You see, some of these things, well, I was told by my staff that I should be soft today. But some of these things, we used to run our power stations. We built the electricity network in this city, all the cables and everything in your houses, the street lights. And we had the power station there, those towers. And someone wrote on a piece of paper called a statutory instrument and said, from this date onwards, there shall be ZESA. And because from that date onwards there was ZESA, it took everything. It never paid us a cent. Now we owe them money using power stations that we built. Is that fair? Does that make sense? It doesn't to me. We built the buildings in the city center there that were taken over by ZESA. They are not paying rentals to us. They are just in there, they are sitting in the buildings. Nothing, they don't pay anything. They took the lines, they took the power station, never paid anything. It's one of the things that we need to discuss in terms of the culture of how things are taken from the cities. It creates a problem, but be that as it may, we are in that position where we now owe ZESA for things that they took from us. And we have to pay at some point. We will, however, continue to engage the Minister of Energy and Power Development and our parliamentarians to look into this issue, whereby we build infrastructure and it's taken up. I'll give, for example, the National Art Gallery. The National Art Gallery we supervised its building in 1957. We got a 50,000 pound donation from someone who had passed away, and we were thankful for that donation. Now the National Art Gallery is there, and in my office of the mayor, if you look at how the townhouse is designed, it's designed like an art gallery, and you'll see that we have pieces of art that date from 1927, the Whitmore collections, and many other pieces of art, because that's the only place where we used to collect art and give them. Now the National Art Gallery took it. They no longer invite the mayor to their events. There is nothing. So it's some of these things that and hygiene issues that we need to deal with as a nation. Water and sanitization provision. Water coverage. The city has experienced a perpetual water crisis. Due to demand, we supply Harare in the greater Harare area of its water. And the greater Harare area, we require, the water demand is 800 megaliters per day. Our production at Morton Jeffrey is 460 megaliters, 470 megaliters per day, but these days it has been suppressed to 295 megaliters per day. We have a target to make sure that by September and towards the end of the year, we will be averaging that 470 megaliters. Our quality of water is at 97.2% in terms of quality. Unfortunately, 60% of the water we produce is non-revenue water. In other words, people don't pay for it. It gets lost in the pipes. Those who are metered do not pay, and so forth. And we will have to engage on a better system to get the revenue back. In other words, we need to maybe seriously consider issues around water meters, around efficiency, around penalties for people who take water for free. So Harare South and Western suburbs receives water 5 days a week. Eastern suburbs like Mavuku, Greendale receive water 2 days a week. Southern suburbs 4 days a week. CBD 5 days a week. Eastern and northern suburbs 4 days. Northwestern suburbs, Borodale, Hartcliffe 2 days a week. We are carrying out some works on the Morton Jeffrey water treatment plant to optimize production. We will continue to take measures to increase this water production so that we can increase the days that people receive water in the many suburbs. On the part of council, we can only come up with short-term to medium-term solution. In other words, buy more chemicals, increase water, reduce the loss of water. But the primary responsibility of building water reservoirs is with central government. We built Lake Chibero in the 1950s as a city. The last dam that was built for Harare, or the greater Harare area, was built in 1976, which is the Downdale Dam. That's the last time central government thought about building water for citizens of Harare or the greater Harare area. So they last built a dam in 1976. Come independence, we are now 3 million people living in Harare, parliamentarians, government itself, judge, everyone who gets a post in this country comes to live in Harare. But they don't build water to drink for themselves. So we have them here, we are starving with water. They are supposed to build Kunji Dam. I'm told that there are some tractors running up and down there and works, so we hope that it will be finished. But Kunji Dam is a small dam for the water for Harare. The engineer here is there, I see him nodding his head. Kunji Dam is a small dam. We need Musami Dam, we need Muda Dam. We've got a city called Chamisa, where 1 million people live. Those 1 million people do not have a water source. I mean, how do we put 1 million people in a place and we don't have a dam for them to get water? So we need to build Muda Dam, we need to build Musami Dam, we need to build Kunji Dam. Those are dams, they need to be built simultaneously and in quick time because they've been outpaced by the water. Then we need to have a canal coming from Marondera or the Eastern Highlands, because all of our water is going into Save and going into Mozambique and causing floods there. So what we need is to divert and build a canal that comes to the eastern part of Greater Harare. And that canal will be about 70 to 100 kilometers long. And that will give us water that is easier to treat, that is fresh. Now, if we don't do that, the whole of Goromonzi, Rua, and so forth are becoming towns or satellites of Harare. So we need to have that done ASAP. Otherwise, water is going to be a precious commodity for these cities. I've dwelt on water because I believe that it is an urgent issue. And that has to be built. And I'll put it into perspective. I come from Mashingo. To water sugarcane, people built 400 kilometers of canals to get to Chirezi. Now, how can we not build a canal from the Eastern Highlands or from Headlands area, Rusape, Marondera area, which is a few kilometers, and give people water to drink in Harare, in the Greater Harare area? It will be cheaper. So I wanted to put it into perspective so that you won't say I'm talking things that are not feasible. It's very feasible, and we do that than to allow it to go into the east, into Mozambique and so forth. Solid waste management. We have an issue of waste management in the city, and that we are operating on minimal compactors, which is 10. We require as a city 46 compactors. The compactors are the items that carry garbage from your home. Then we have also introduced tipper trucks because there are many illegal dumps that people are putting rubbish at. And then we need to change the architecture of our waste management system so that we turn it into recycling. And we have bought 3 compactors using our own funds, and we're hoping that the devolution funds, had they come, we would have bought more compactors. We are also in dire need of a hazardous waste management or hazardous dump site. We used to put our hazardous waste at Warren Hills, you know, that hill. But now it has been turned into a museum. So we can no longer put our waste at that place. So we are engaging again central government that we are be able to be given a place where we can put our solid waste and be able to deal with that waste that comes from factories, clinics, and so forth, has more harmful effects than other recyclable waste. We have noted increased littering in the CBD. The CBD is now working day and night. People are now selling at night and during the day. We will work with the private sector and our partnership to come up with a regime that can make sure that the CBD is spick and span and clean. We are also going to talk to the building owners to be able to spruce up the buildings. We have a bylaw that talks about how a building should look like, and we are going to be enforcing that bylaw in the shortest possible time so that our city can restore the shine that it has. We also support the National Clean Day. The National Clean Day, I think what we need to do is to actually declare one of these months a National Clean Up Month so that we actually clean up our cities. We also reiterate and also urge all councillors and all residents to support the National Clean Up Day. Now we need to be able to separate politics and cleanliness, okay? You cannot politicize being clean. So you cannot refuse to be clean because it's being done by a party you don't like or by someone you don't like. So we will urge that let's prioritize this cleanup. It's a good initiative. It has been done in many other cities, and we urge the councillors in this city and other councillors in other cities that we need to make sure that where we are staying and where we stay is clean, and we should support the national cleanup exercise whenever it is held. And we as council are going to look as to whether we cannot declare one of these months a national cleanup month, so that we can thoroughly develop initiatives that will clean the city. The roads on the Pomona Waste to Energy project, we reiterate that we are not interested in that deal. We are not going to pay anyone $1 million per month to give them our garbage. I mean, that's not going to happen. So we don't understand the mechanics. We don't understand how it's supposed to work. That I have my rubbish. I bring my rubbish. You don't even help me to bring it. And I pay you money to bring the rubbish to you. And I'm going to pay you $1 million US. To put it into perspective, $1 million US can get you 10 compactor trucks, can get you 20 tipper trucks. And you're giving that per month to a company for 30 years. That can't be possible. I don't know any business in Zimbabwe that has that kind of cash flow to be able to give up $20,000 US per day, 365 days of the month for 30 years. Every day, someone coming to council and saying, "Where's my $1 million?" and going home. Next month they come back and say, "Where's my $1 million?" and they go home. It's not going to happen. So we can rest assured that that will be our position. Road programs. The budget, our 22 roads program and budget is as follows. Zinara is supposed to give us 958 million. City of Harare, we're supposed to do 87.7 million. Devolution, 150 million. Of the Zinara allocation of 58.9 million, only 25% has come to City Council, 239.7 million, which is for routine maintenance and legacy debtors. City has received 131 million from Zinara in the first quarter, and that money has been utilized. So as you can see, first of all, the budget is not enough, but we don't get it. We used to run our own vehicle licenses as the city. In their wisdom or lack thereof, they decided to give the money to Zinara. And as the money was given to Zinara, it's now coming in dribs and drops. When we used to have it, we built the road network of Harare. I want to challenge Zinara to say, ever since they took the road from 2009, they give me one single new road they've built for Harare. Our road building exercise stopped in 2009 when we lost vehicle licensing. Now people are getting used to dust roads in the suburbs, to dust roads in new suburbs, mansions. We need, as a matter of urgency, to get vehicle licensing back to Harare so that we can leverage our costs. We have 800,000 motorists in Harare, and we need them. And then we have many motorists coming into Harare from the sides of Harare that do not pay for the using of road of Harare. So we need to address that as a matter of urgency. Road trafficability. It's taking longer to cross Harare. One, the traffic lights sometimes are not working. Two, there are traffic jams. There's a lot of traffic. We are working flat out to create a traffic system that is less breakdowns. And we are also trying to create a situation where we expand our roads and we are able to build new roads and to divert the roads outside Harare. We are working with central government on the Mangudya Cloverleaf roadworks, and we hope that will be concluded very soon to reduce congestion in that area. It's taking 40 minutes to cross the CBD. Out of our annual target of 40 kilometers of resealing the roads, we've only been able to do 4.4 kilometers. as of June 2022 under the Emergency Road Rehabilitation Program. There's an allocation that comes to us. Routine maintenance, we've done 100 kilometers of the targeted 113. And we are using money from our business units to do that. We've done 80% overlay on Robert Mugabe Road, 4th Avenue in Warren Park, and First Street in Kwadana Extension. 1.4 kilometers at Willowmead and 600 meters of Pensay Road. We are going to work with the Ministry of Transport to be able to increase the roads that we are able to do. It is a challenge in terms of what I've mentioned earlier. And we will need to develop new solutions and more effective solutions to deal with this problem. The Harare Master Plan is 10% complete and local plans, but it's long overtaken by events around our area. We are and have applied to incorporate other areas into Harare, and a lot of other farms are applying to be incorporated into Harare. A lot of people are building on the boundary of Harare, so they want to be part of Harare. So now that we are having delimitation, we've made our representation. Harare has no defined boundary. Our boundary is what remains when other provinces have been drawn, okay? So there's no map or someone who has deliberately drawn Harare and said, no, this is Harare. It is what remains after someone has drawn Mashonaland Central, Mashonaland East, Mashonaland this, Chitungwiza, and that. So it's a challenge. So there is an alarming lack of planning in my view, but what we are going to do is we are going to change all that. I've spoken to the city planners, I've spoken to our planning department that we should have a defined boundary of Harare, and we should incorporate as many areas as we can possibly in the provinces that are pretending to be another province when they are Harare. So we have Mount Hamden. You can't, I don't know, parliament, you can't build a whole parliament outside Harare and then expect Harare to provide all the services. You build things outside Harare and we are the ones that are to provide services. We can't even plan. We don't even know how you come up with some of these things. But anyway, we are engaging the province, we are engaging the planners, and we are going to draw a defined boundary for Harare that is not merely the remnants of what remains when others have finished drawing their provinces. Parks and cemeteries services. Yes, we have a challenge with our cemeteries. People, unfortunately, are no longer going to the rural areas to be buried. We are having more and more people being buried in town. The space is getting smaller and smaller. I know Epworth has run out of space. Chitungwiza is running out of space. Harare, we are running out of space. And we need urgently to expand the boundaries so that we can have cemeteries. We are going to be planting more trees. We have a target to plant 3,000. We have target to plant 1,000 trees during the year 2020. We have planted 3,700 trees. We are going to focus on the preservation of wetlands. So we are going to define and have a defined map of which ones are our wetlands, and those wetlands, we are going to stop development in those wetlands and only allow activities that are friendly to the wetlands. And that we are duty bound, because once we destroy them, we destroy our water source, we destroy our environment. Health service provision. We are at the core phase of health service provision. We have over 46 healthcare centers, 42 health facilities across the town. That's family health, environmental health, hygiene, sanitation, pharmaceutical, dental, epidemiology. Management of infectious disease is done at Wilkins and Beatrice hospitals, and these are the biggest facilities in Southern Africa after South Africa in terms of handling infectious diseases. We are able to handle even Ebola outbreaks and so forth. We also average. Edith Opperman in Bari is one of our business centers in terms of giving birth. It averages 600 births per month. As a city, we are averaging 3,000 births per month. And our maternity fees are only $25. People get onto a bus, come to Harare, they give birth, get on a bus, and go back. But the ratepayers of Harare are the ones that are then bearing the cost of that. Our outpatients have increased by 23% in the period January to May 2022, and this is due to the relaxation of COVID. We have opened 9 clinics that Parliament was concerned about, which had been closed. Those 9 clinics are now open. They've been hit by a staff shortage. We are also looking at the COVID-19 issue. We note with concern that there's greater disrespect of COVID-19 protocols. As of week 25, we've recorded 85 new cases and 5 deaths. The hotspots are the northern eastern districts. On vaccination, at week 25, the statistics is as follows. First dose 1,157, second dose 1,050, third dose 745. Vaccine coverage, dose 1 5.4%, dose 2 4.9% of set weekly targets, and tests done in week 25 are 4,665 and with a positivity rate of 1.83%. Cumulative cases as at week 25 is 46,298 with a case fatality rate of 4.22%. So let's just be careful out there with this COVID thing. We are nearing the out of the woods, but we are not out of the woods yet. But we've got the facilities to test, to do the vaccines and everything that is required. And we are working very closely with the Ministry of Health. We have greater success in terms of cooperation with the Ministry of Health than many other ministries. Public safety and security services. Public lighting. We managed to maintain 66% of the city public lights, which is the high master tower lights. Not much has been done on street lights. We need to install 1,000 LED lights along our roads to improve public safety. On high master tower lights, we managed to resuscitate 7 tower lights, maintain 102 tower lights in all our high density areas. Before the end of the year, 42 new high master tower lights will be connected. The areas to have new HMTs are Ugare, Masasa Park, Cold Comfort, Korobro South. Your city is aware of the plight of the non-functionality of some of its HMTs, and the concern that of the bill that we have to pay to ZETDC for public lighting. We are engaging ZETDC on this issue so that we have common ground. Emergency services, though our response to emergencies in the Greater Harare is within standards of 7 minutes per 10-kilometer radius, we continue to maintain a high state of emergency, and this then comes to another deal. We are being made aware through correspondence that we asked for fire tenders. Now, the problem with the Belarus deal is that the fire tenders are costing a lot. They are costing 500,000 a piece. We were not consulted as councils or the political leaders of council when the process was being done. We believe that there are cheaper tenders out there and that all the tenders are one size fits all issue. And we thought there needed to be a variable in terms of the tenders. You cannot get a tender for Mwenezi, which is only a beer making factory, and get a $500,000 fire tender. Or you cannot rush a tender to put out a fire over a hut. It is cheaper to let that hut burn out. And how many times do huts burn out? So we have to be very deliberate on how we choose the equipment and capitalize cities. So we are going to deal with our emergency response. We will look at tenders that are cheaper, and we will be able to consult the residents on that. City enforcement. There's a lot of complaints about city control, crime, illegal activities, tuck shops, and all sorts, and others are developing gated communities where they are making people pay to get into their own houses. We'll have to put a stop to those types of gated communities that do not have authority and that do not have the consent of the residents, where someone simply encloses a whole community and makes them pay to get in and out of their houses using public roads. That should not happen. We are also going to look at the licensing regime of our tuck shops. We are playing a cat and mouse with our tuck shops, but what we are going to do is we are going to introduce a SPAZA tuck shop regime, which will allow us to license tuck shops so that people can earn a living within hygiene standards that are set, so that we won't have this cat and mouse. We are also going to look at how we can safely introduce hawkers licenses in a safe manner and in the manner that allows those that have to do the hawking to do it safely, so that we don't have illegal activities, congestion in our streets, and we can allow also people to make a living. So I'll be having a meeting with the informal sector within the shortest possible time. We have over 16,500 business units that are licensed. A whole lot more are unlicensed. We have over an estimated 100,000 informal sector businesses which were branded small to medium enterprises. And we are going to try and make sure that the licensing regime is okay. We are also going to look at our farmers who are coming from Mutoko. We have recently retaken Charterhouse in Bari, which had been taken over by vigilantes. This is a place where our market vegetable people used to bath, eat, and get new clothes when they come in, whilst they are close to their wares. We are going to revamp Charterhouse so that the farmers can have a place to shower, can have a place to sleep, can have a place to eat, and they can also bring their produce in a safe environment. We are going to look at our markets and modernize Mbare vegetable market. Most of our vegetables come there, but if you go there and try to buy there, you might not eat vegetables again. So we are going to try and make sure that that environment is clean and we spruce it up, and also farmers can do their trade in a safe environment and safe places. In that regard, we are going to reduce the market prices that we are charging. We are having complaints by people who are operating those markets. Our charges, because they were based on a forward inflation model or something, I don't know, they are too high. That has left them vulnerable to corruption. We are going to reduce those charges, the gate entry fees into our markets, so that, and into our flea markets, so that people pay a reasonable price. We are going to try and create a situation where the city is ready to service the residents and be able to be fit for purpose. So in conclusion, we as the city fathers and the councillors recommit ourselves to a back to basics service delivery model. We believe that we have been voted and re-voted into office to deliver services to the people and not to deliver complaints. And in that regard, most of the measures that are within our control, we are going to do it. We are going to pass the bylaws, pass the necessary resolutions that will allow us to reinvest in the city and also to build our city so that it becomes a smart city. A smart city is a city that can communicate with its residents, a city that can communicate with its people, that is fit for purpose, that can give you what you want on demand. And once we are able to deal with the issues of service delivery, collection of revenue, which was hampered by our ERP model. We had a dispute with our service provider who was giving us our revenue collection model. That is in terms of the bills that you get, the accuracy of the bills that you get, and we have tendered it out. And I'm advised by the town clerk that by September, the new players will be in, or the old players who were there will be in to deal with getting the bills to the residents. And we have not been able to then audit our budget since 2019, isn't it? Because of that ERP fiasco or disaster. We are on top of the situation, and as when I came back from my mini suspension, I've made it a key priority area, and the other councils have made it a key priority area to be able to deal with those issues. So, I want to thank my team for the City of the State address. It is not your usual exciting speech because it is to stick to the figures and stick to the issues that the residents have at the forefront of their minds. And I want to thank the team that put up this report, and I believe that it is informative and has clearly outlined our shortcomings and the targets that we have set ourselves going forward. And I promise this city that we will defend the property of the city, will defend the integrity of the city, will also rejuvenate this city within everything possible. I would like also to thank my party, in particular the president of my party, Advocate Nelson Chamisa, for having deployed me to this role, and the members of my party for having voted me to this role, because without that we will not be here present. And I would like to thank the voters for returning many of the councillors and the new councillors that come into the positions so that we are able to deliver to the city. And I would like also to thank government for the things that it has given. We have received devolution funds for the initiatives that it has taken, and I do appreciate, as I said, the National Cleanup Day that has been undertaken by His Excellency President Mnangagwa. I do believe that it's a good initiative. We all must be clean, and we call upon central government to continue and to intensify its effort to assist the city in the many capital projects that we are currently engaged in. And I want to thank to my councillors, to the councillors that I'm working with, that we don't have to agree all the time, but that is democracy. We have councillors from ZANU, we have councillors from NDC, we have the majority councillors from CCC. It creates a healthy environment. We might not have to agree, but for as long as we are able to discuss, put residents and the citizens at the center, we will be able to carry the city through. So, in delivering today's State of the City address, we recommit ourselves to making the tough decisions. We're recommitting ourselves to deliver a service that will make Zimbabweans and the citizens of Harare proud. I'm proud to be the mayor of Harare. And as I live, or when I live, I want you as residents to be proud that I once was mayor of Harare. Thank you.